I really want to make an impact on like setting better expectations for people getting in the industry, upping the bar, and letting people know I don't care how you do it, you are getting into the direct sales business. Period. End of story. Like if you can't see yourself making phone calls, I don't care if it's internet leads or for sale by owners, do not get into real estate.
With where the market's going, there's going to be two types of agents that survive. I just don't think people realize what industry they're actually getting into and what it takes to be successful. You guys, if you want this, like there's not a lack of how to do it. You just have to be willing to invest in yourself to make it happen.
My guest today, you guys, is really, really special. I am very much so looking forward to the conversation because she has one of the top teams in the entire country and growing extremely fast. They sold 450 houses last year, on pace to double that in 2022. With me, I have Spring Benson. Spring, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Me too, because I want to talk about something that I think a lot of new agents really struggle with, which is all these voices and this overwhelmed spring of like, who do I listen to? And all these lead generation things and all these shiny stuff out there. What works, what doesn't work? And I really want to focus the conversation on today on really breaking down a couple key strategies and then talking about the pros and cons of each and just giving the facts, what works, what doesn't, because I think the challenge for most new agents, like we were talking about before we hit record, was like this all or nothing mindset. Like, oh, that doesn't work. You have to do it this way. Well, there's a bunch of different ways to grow a real estate business. And that's what I'm hoping to unpack with you today.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. I agree with you 100%. Like there's not one right or wrong way to do this business. I always tell agents it's what you're willing to do.
Yeah, I love that.
What are you willing to do to get uncomfortable? Because none of it is comfortable. So that's my model on it.
Well, and that's a really good place to start, because I think to your point, agents are constantly looking for things that like they're looking for the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And what I keep screaming from the mountaintops is the only evidence that we have in our industry that you're on the track of success is when things are difficult, and that when things seemingly appear simple, it's probably the wrong track. Like when you're in pain, that means you're doing well. And so that's why I wanted to have you on, is like, I want to try to lead these agents to a place that they get productive, they get profitable, and they can succeed in this business, and they can stop chasing shiny objects for the magic pill that I think you would agree simply doesn't exist. Is that right?
Doesn't exist. So my business model, as you mentioned, I run a large team. We have approximately about 55 agents right now. We'll have 90 in the next 3 months. We're on a massive attraction campaign. But what we teach everybody is I want you to look at your business like a stool, and you have to have 4 legs of a stool. If you only have 3, it's wobbly, or if you only have 1, you don't have a true business. So we go off of like, find 4 things that you're going to specialize in. When we bring them in for their first 30 days, they don't know. They don't know what they're willing to do or what they're comfortable doing or they're willing to get uncomfortable doing. So we give them a bunch of different lead sources and opportunities and scripting, and then see where when they're most comfortable with getting uncomfortable with, and then that's what they get to pick.
Yeah, I love it. So I do want to spend a few minutes kind of just breaking down your team's business model, starting with the brokerage, because I think in your career, you've got some good perspective. I think if my memory serves me, you've been at a big box brokerage, you've opened your own brokerage. Can you walk us through the brokerage structure, and then we'll break down the team model? Yeah.
So I started my career at like a boutique. I worked at a boutique for years. And then I've been in real estate for almost 20 years now. In about 2010, after the economy had tanked, the brokerage, the boutique that I worked for was shutting down. And so I ended up at Keller Williams. I worked at Keller Williams for almost 10 years and I loved it. I will tell you, I'm KW built, but it was time. Like it was time. I was ready for the next progression, and I was ready for, I was just ready for a new adventure. So I opened up my own. Horrible decision, only because It was a lot of work. I just think coming from that team model, I thought like, hey, people don't leave Spring, they leave the team model. So I'll go open a brokerage. When they leave the team, they'll transition into the brokerage. And they did. And then also when I started looking at it, I'm like, well, I'm not going to have a brokerage to not make any money. So I need to have it operate outside of my team. So we went and built it, and we built it quickly. But when I say it was horrible, it was just because it wasn't fulfilling for me. Like the profits that we were making based off of the amount of work, I knew I could put my energy somewhere else and make additional income. So we shut that down about a year ago. It'll be a year in May. And we transitioned over to Real Broker, and that's been really fun. So
I love it. That's phenomenal. And so, man, so that could be a whole episode right there, because I operate an independent brokerage, and it is so difficult. And so we'll save that for another show. So you have 55 agents on the team. Are they all team agents from the standpoint of like the same structure, compensations all aligned? Walk us through that really quick.
Yep. So team structure. So we hire mostly new and train them up. I do have senior agents that join us because we can double and triple their production as well. Everybody's on the same split. Every lead source is comparable splits. If we have a lead source that takes like a Zillow Flex or an Opcity, we charge their referral fee off the top, and then we have our team split. Here's the thing about teams. A lot of teams are big. They're just not profitable.
Yep.
And I have no desire to have a team and not have any profits. And so we operate in a stance of we provide massive value, but we monitor our numbers like crazy in our lead gen. And we're going to talk about that. And so the only expense that goes away when it's the agent's own deal is the cost of the lead, which if you're buying the most expensive leads is maybe $300. So we do not do something different for their SOI just because we don't eliminate any costs just because it was their SOI. So
got it. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, great. And then the last thing I want to break down on your team before we jump into this conversation is, what is your team's lead generation model? What are your 4 or maybe 5 biggest pillars of business where, I mean, you're selling a lot of houses. I mean, you guys are going to do what, 800-900 deals this year, something like that?
Yeah, we're on pace to do 1,000 transactions.
1,000 transactions. So where does the business come from?
You know, we have a lot. We have a lot of it, but their SOI is massive for us. Still probably, I haven't looked in the last month, but last year it was 60% of our business. We do a lot of online lead generation. So we do a lot of Opcity, Realtor.com, Zillow. We have an ISA department that does a lot. And then just social media and their SOI. So we do have some. How I met you actually is formally meeting you, but I know who you are because some of my agents have coached with you. They've reached out,
it. Yes.
And they've gone through your coaching, and some of them still are. So, but we do a little bit of prospecting, but a lot of it is based off the lead generation that we're bringing in.
Yeah, makes sense. You guys so your ISA team is focused their prospecting efforts on the inbound lead generation that the team is bringing. Is that right?
Correct. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is the ISA team doing any outbound prospecting, circle prospecting, old expireds, anything like that?
No, our agents can. So our agents will go in and prospect, but our ISA department is 100% taking the inbound leads that we're generating and then nurturing that relationship and then converting them over to an appointment.
Got it. All right. That makes sense. All right. So I want to have this conversation. Thanks for breaking that down, by the way. So I want to have the conversation under the context spring, looking through the lens of a new agent. All right. So like, let's talk in context of that. So the funny thing is, and you nailed it, I had this highlighted on my notes for our conversation today, that number one will be and will always be, in my opinion, the database, the SOI, past client, center of influence database should be the highest priority in our business. Yet you and I both, I think, would agree that most agents neglect it like crazy because they're in search of like new business and new people, and we forget our greatest asset. So I'm going to save that for another conversation. I just want to talk about a couple lead pillars outside of the database, but I want to make sure that real estate agents that watch this, it's funny, you're going to Jeff Glover's event next week. It's so funny. He and I have been working together for years and years and years. He's like, I neglected my database for years until I understood that. Go ahead. And I did the same thing, by the way.
So did I. So I had a coach, maybe 5 years ago. I had a team and everything. And he just said, hey, Spring, your business runs on adrenaline. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, you're constantly chasing. He's like, if you guys would actually focus on your database, you would have a steady flow of business coming in. And quite frankly, I will tell you, like, we have done a poor job lately because it's been so easy. This industry has been so easy.
I know
that we've made a massive effort to go back to our database. Like that is, we track it like crazy right now. Even how many calls, texts, emails are coming out of it on a weekly, and we have a scorecard that gets posted on the wall because we want to see how many times they're following up with anybody in their database, because we know it's not a lack of leads, it's a lack of conversion, right? So
yeah. So you would agree that like new agent or experienced agent, like the first highest priority of a realtor's business should be dialing in the database and how we're communicating with the people inside of it. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's always the first thing that I focus on too. So, all right. So putting that aside, just so everybody is aware, we're assuming you got that dialed in. So moving on to the first source I want to talk about, which is internet leads.
Okay.
So this is your wheelhouse. That's the other reason why I want to have you on the show. You're probably one of the best at this pillar in the country, maybe the world. So now here's the thing. So there are pros and cons, right? And I want to talk about both because there are myths. And so I would like to serve up some softballs to you and have you hit these things out of the park. So all right. So here's what I wrote down. Let's start on the side of pros, right? So one of the pros of internet lead gen is we take the number one problem away, which is consistent influx of new opportunities into an agent's business. In other words, when you buy internet leads, you can count on the company. Like you don't have to worry about inbound leads coming into the business because a company's doing it for you. You're buying those. Would you agree with that?
Correct. Yes. 100%.
So, which is a great thing because, again, both you and I know most agents, when they don't have a mindset, like Gary Keller talked about, of a lead generation mindset, you just happen to be a realtor. That's a huge problem. Number two, I would say on the pro side is that you don't need a lot of, now hear me out. When I say this word, you might say, well, you don't need a lot of skill to get the lead. On the conversion side, you need a lot of skill, but to give your credit card to Zillow, like you just pull it out of your purse and you hand it over. You
need zero skill. Zero skill.
All right, beautiful. We're on the same page.
Yeah, there is zero skill. And I will say this, I believe we are moving into a market that a skill-based realtor will succeed every time. Meaning, I believe that's the market we're in, period. But I'm just saying this market has made it so easy for people who have not focused on their skills that when you see with the interest rates and what's going to ultimately happen, a skill-based realtor is going to be who succeeds in this market. 100%.
Oh, it's going to be amazing.
Yes.
If 10, 20, 30% of these agents get out of the business, and you have to have skills. Now, let's get into the cons a little bit, because this is the part where I think you and I can have some healthy debate, and I really want your opinion here. I'm known, Spring, maybe you know it, as like the cold call guy, right? And so here's kind of, I guess, my issue with agents that are like, well, I just go buy these inbound leads. The myth number one is, I believe an internet lead, and we're not talking about a property specific. So we're not talking about Zillow. We're talking about like a Boomtown or a forced registration lead is what I'm talking about. Okay.
Correct.
I believe that is more of a cold call than calling a for sale by owner. And here's why. When a lead is forced to register on one of those sites, that person does not raise their hand and say, I want a realtor to call me. They don't know a realtor is going to call them. In many cases, when the realtor calls them, it's nothing but rejection or objections, like pushing back. No, I'm just looking. And the myth is, I give my credit card and I become successful. If I just go get a Commissions Inc. website or a Boomtown website, and I just give them my credit card and we start doing Facebook and Google PPC or like a Real Geeks, all my problems go away because they think they're avoiding prospecting. They think that because I have these leads coming in, I don't have to touch the phone. Do you agree with that? Do you think that that gets them out of selling over the phone, or do you feel like you have to call every single one of these leads to get a conversion?
Oh, I agree and I disagree with you.
All right, let's talk about it.
So I would agree with you in terms that probably the thought process originally of, hey, it scares me to call a first sale by owner. I don't want to be rejected. I believe most people look at the internet lead of like, they're not the people calling FSBOs or expired. So let's agree on that one, right? And truthfully, that's how I ended up in it.
Sure.
I started my team off of internet leads because I was new to an area. I didn't know anybody, and I definitely was not a cold caller, nor did I even know that was expected, right? It just wasn't part of my vernacular. Now, I will tell you that yes, when you're calling that person back, they're not expecting a call from you. You do need to be scripted and very well
skilled.
You have to call it. Yes, you have to call within 5 minutes. You have to be skilled. You have to be scripted. You have to know what your value proposition and overcome objections. So to your point, they're just a different type of call. I do think realtors think that they're not quote unquote bugging them because they did a forced registration, but I don't believe the consumer realizes they're going to get a call. So you and I are on the same page. I think it's just a shift in the real estate agent's mindset of like, oh, I'm just calling them back. They inquired on this, right?
Yeah.
But the consumer doesn't realize what they were doing.
All right. So that's great. I mean, it's good. This is such a good conversation because this is kind of like this is like this myth that I talk about, this myth of marketing, and it's the agent's perception that the marketing companies are, in my opinion, selling to.
Yeah.
And so like when people are talking about cold calling is dead, well, what my belief is that what you just outlined with an internet lead is the definition of a cold call. Like you're calling somebody who doesn't want you to call. And I would make the counter argument that a for sale by owner spring has their hand in the sky saying, I'm selling my house. I am selling my house. So naturally realtors are going to call me. So, and then, yeah, go ahead.
I would agree with you on that. And I would disagree with you. Like, think about how many first sale by owners, yes, they have their hand. I say it, I'm like, for sale by owner has a green light on their head. I'm selling my home. I just don't know that how many prepared to think that realtors, I mean, it's stupid to not, but I think that they expect the consumer, not the agent. But I agree with you. And I do agree with you as well. I actually think an internet lead is a harder conversion. I truthfully do.
Yeah.
It's a whole different animal. It's the path of least resistance, but somewhere they think they're not getting rejected.
I know it. Well, here's the thing Zillow just put out is like over 90% of FSBOs on Zillow offer a buyer agent commission and say agents are welcome. So like the argument that I'm making, I'm like, well, if you go and buy the lead for X amount of dollars and you commit to thousands and thousands of dollars, you could just call them direct for free.
Yeah.
And they're expecting you to call. That's a debate that it's just a mindset that, to your point, that I find very interesting because the agent's like, well, I'm not going to cold call. I just can't accept that, but I could buy leads and call these people. And to your point, they feel fine with that.
Well, so here's the thing, Brennan, like, I don't believe agents are great at internet leads.
Oh, I mean, they're terrible. They're terrible.
Hence why I have an ISA department at this. I've wasted a lot of time and money on internet leads because here's the deal, is that depending upon the funnel, and when I say funnel, there's high quality leads and lower quality. Don't get me wrong, leads are leads, but there's some that cost more that have it. They actually, like as Zillow said, I want to see this home. And then there's the people who don't even realize they're registered, right? But that lower quality lead that's a forced registration, that conversion cycle is almost 600 plus days. You can't tell me a realtor is going to follow up for 600 plus days. So I do a lot of coaching of teams. I have a coaching product of teams and stuff. And when they ask me, hey, should I invest in this internet or should I get this Boomtown or whatever it is. I'm like, that depends. It depends on what you're
Yeah.
going to do with the leads, because you're going to get them in. But if you don't have somebody who's willing to nurture them for the next 2 years, then you're just wasting your money,
I
truthfully.
love it. Yeah. I mean, you took the words right off my notes. I mean, I guess it just is an agent perception thing, because the other thing that I get a lot of pushback from agents is like, wow, like you 80, 90% of conversion lives in lead follow-up, and you want me to call these people every week and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, wait a minute. If you get into the internet lead business, you're going to be calling them a lot more than once a week. Like you need to call them 4 or 5 10 times a day. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So it's usually 3 times, 2 calls, 1 text, until we get a hold of them in 14 to 21 days to figure out what their time frame is, their motivation, all of that jazz. And then they go into a follow-up sequence. The average lead in our system is touched 27 times.
Wow.
So again, it comes down to, here's the thing though, there's different agents have different behavioral profiles.
Sure.
And so like one of them that's coaching with you on my team, he started coaching with you because he wanted to up level his skill set, and you've done amazing for him. So thank you. But he doesn't have the confidence to go call the physicals, which we're talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But he has no problem sitting behind a computer and texting and doing a follow-up call for 2 years. It's just a difference of, he's not a hunter.
Yeah, you're right.
More of a customer service behavioral profile. And truthfully, he's a rock star. He's a rock star in our environment. But if he had to go hunt, I don't think he'd be in real estate.
That is such a great point. And I knew we were going to like just have a great conversation on this, because that's why this all or nothing mentality is hurting agents, because there is no right or wrong way. And I love that you just said that. And it makes a lot of sense. But I just wanted to make it clear to agents, like we're talking about facts or the myths and all these different things. Yeah. And I think both you and I agree that just because you give your credit card to Boomtown, your problems don't go away. Like you don't avoid rejection. You don't avoid making phone calls and dealing with rejection, having to work on your skills. You make the argument you need to work on those things more, not less. Like that doesn't solve anything. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, we're in a skill-based business. I don't care where the leads come from.
Yeah. Love it.
The consumer wants you to be the knowledge broker. I tell the agents coming into our world, like, you're not selling homes, you're selling, the product is you and your knowledge and your services. So you just have to be whatever route you're going to go, but you're going to be comfortable, but you are the product. Yeah.
I love it. So let's talk about, let's still stay on internet leads for a second. Hopefully you're okay on time.
Totally.
We can speed it up a little bit, but
I got you. You're good.
All right, cool. So I want to talk about timeline expectations on conversion, right? So both you and I both probably would agree that most people getting this industry are addicted to instant gratification. They do think they need a paycheck every other Friday. They have an employee mindset. Being self-employed, it's one of the biggest problems that we have in the industry. Walk us through the average conversion timeline with internet leads.
Yeah. So again, I talk about the bottom of the funnel and the top of the funnel leads, right? So if you're doing a forced registration, pay-per-click, Facebook, you're going to be 6 to 18 months minimum. And sometimes right now we're looking, ours is about 630 days. And it's because the consumers get online and start searching for like, what would a home at my price point, or what is a home in this neighborhood? It's just kind of an idea. It's not that they're 100% ready to go. The ones that are not a quote unquote forced registration, so a Zillow, OpCity, Realtor.com, we're seeing about 120 days for them to convert. Some of them can be longer, but the ones that are coming in, especially the ones that have already been scrubbed, that we're paying the aggregate fee, like the 35% off the top, they've been in Zillow's pipeline for a long time, and they're now ready to be wanting to see homes and go under contract. So there's about 120 days. If it was a Zillow Premier lead back in the day, those Zillow Premier leads were at least 6 months, 6 to 12 months. So
Yeah.
there would be some that were immediate, but they were a longer conversion cycle for us. I haven't had much luck with Facebook. I mean, I don't do any advertising on Facebook for real estate. I know there's a ton of people that are fans of that. I watch my numbers like a hawk. Like I can
I
tell you
love
my
that.
ROI, my cost of sell, my cost per lead, what agents are converting, what leads, like I know it all. And those lead aggregates or systems or whatever, it just didn't work for me. And I just don't believe that the consumer is on Facebook being like, I'm going to buy a house today.
Right.
Like they might see a shiny, beautiful home that's like, oh, that's cool, let's click on it, but it doesn't mean anything. And so, yes, they're inexpensive, but in my opinion, they're really crappy leads. So that's just my opinion.
So and that makes sense because as I talk about this all the time, like forced registration leads versus property specific are the cream of the crop, right? They cost a lot more. They convert a lot. They're more money. So are you saying you put your budget? Do you have like a forced registration site?
Yes.
What do you guys use?
So my first registration site that we use now is Sierra.
Okay, cool.
All of those leads go to my ISA department though, because it's insane for me to think that an agent's going to follow up that much. So we have each ISA get 500 forced registration leads per month.
Okay.
On our AdWord budget. And then we have other higher lead conversion lead sources coming in. We also, for anything that has already been scrubbed, like a Zillow Flex or an Opcity or whatnot, those go directly to the agent to convert, just because we don't want to pass them from their ISA to our ISA, then to an agent.
Yeah.
But if our agent doesn't convert them within 90 days, we have them pass it back to the ISA, only because I just know an agent's not going to sit there and nurture the client.
That's right. They're not. I agree. It's the truth. It's another truth that we're bringing in this conversation.
Yeah.
So your budget on that is all on Google, right? Facebook just hasn't been great.
I don't do anything on Facebook. I did for years. I mean, until I really started learning to, we taught Sisu.
Yeah.
You can plug in the back of it and it will literally pop out the cost of the lead, cost of sell, cost of how many all of it, you know? And so I was like, I'm losing money at this. It's shiny. It was shiny object that I purchased that I didn't make 1 penny off of.
Yeah. What is, just real quick, and then we're going to move to the next lead source. What is your cost per sale on the internet lead side of the business?
It depends on where it's coming from. I mean, my average cost per sell, when we were doing Zillow Premier, which we only moved to Flex 90 days ago, was we were about $3,000 cost per sell on it.
And again, this conversation is on context of new agents. So most new agents, they don't have all this cash to, put forth, right, in this model, and then wait a year to get paid, because that's the other challenge. Yeah.
And so context for a new agent, I'm not a fan. I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan of a new agent going and spending this money. People come to me all the time. I'm like, go get in open houses.
Yeah.
Like you literally in an open house that you're in a storefront, somebody's walking in the door, go door knock, call a first sell by owner, like learn your scripts, I'm a fan of lead with revenue. So I have 50 plus agents I have to support in lead generation, and there has to be a value proposition to be in our team, right?
Yeah.
So leads are a small component of that, but I have a mixture of it all.
Yeah.
And it's just because we have to.
Yeah. And you nailed exactly what I coach to and what I believe, which is leading with revenue, building a prospecting based revenue first model. And then with the money you make, that's almost pure profit from prospecting, putting that into internet lead generation to scale. And I think that's exactly what you're saying. Is that right?
Yep. 100%. Like you lead with sales, you lead with you being the product, your services. Right. And then you can increase it as time goes. Yeah.
So of that source, what's the percentage of buyers versus, are you guys able to get listings from that business, or is it majority buyer business?
Yeah, majority buyer business. We're probably about a 70% buyer business, always have been. We do, from our internet leads, you can get about 30% of your internet leads will be sellers as well, because they have a home to sell.
Sure.
But we have always been very, very heavy buyer based. It's just what's worked for us.
Yeah, got it. Okay, cool. So let's go to lead source number 2. And that was the longest one because that's your wheelhouse.
Mhm.
Number 2, I'm going to shift to my wheelhouse, which is like making outbound prospecting phone calls. And, I think that, again, under the context of a new agent that doesn't have a lot of money, that can't wait a year to get paid, that this is a really good opportunity. It doesn't mean it's the only way, right? But it's a good opportunity. So I want to talk about the pros and cons. Number 1, it's free. Number 2, it's direct. Number 3, I wrote it's quality. And then number 4, Spring, I wrote down it's virtually guaranteed if you do it. And what I mean by that is this. I just had a coaching call before I jumped on this podcast with you.
Mhm.
And there's some statistical probabilities. And so I'm huge in the analytics. I mean, this is your world too. This is what you live in your household, right?
Yes.
This is your world. So
Yeah.
I love it too. So here's what we know. We know that we've done this with 4,000 new realtors across all markets in the country over the past 6 years. What we know, these are all pretty much newer agents, that every 50 conversations with for sale by owners, new and old expireds, for rent by owners, absentee owners, downsizers, probates, divorce, all specialty niches,
Yep.
every 50 conversations, we can set a QLA, a qualified listing appointment. It's all listing based, every 50 conversations. What
Yep.
we've been able to prove is that to get a brand new agent to get to 1 listing per week, the new agent, we can get them to a 50% close ratio within their first 90 days. So they have to go on 2 appointments a week.
Yep.
Well, that means they need 100 conversations a week or 20 outbound contacts per day that gets them on 2 appointments and 1 contract a week. And for most agents at most companies, if an agent was bringing in 48 listings a year, they would be an absolute rock star.
Yes, I agree with you.
And so we know, but the problem, to your point, is we also know it's the path of most resistance. It takes the most amount of skill. So this is on the cons, right? It takes the most amount of skill, the most amount of discipline, and the most amount of mental toughness to be a hunter. Because most humans on earth, biologically speaking, based on the science, is this goes against all of our DNA because our brain is hardwired to protect us from pain. And so we run away from it. So that's why you see only a small percentage that actually succeed in this model because it is so difficult, but I also believe it's the most effective. And so what are your thoughts on just this model overall? Because quite frankly, you're in circles with a lot of people that have built their businesses this way.
Yeah. So you and I are in agreement. I'm a fan. There's nothing that you said that I disagree with. I think the number one problem though, Brandon, is that agents don't realize what business they're getting into.
You're right.
They go to real estate school because they need their second or third career, or somebody made it look easy, or they sold their house and they thought this person made $1 billion or whatever. They don't realize what they're getting into. So when push comes to shove, and then it's like, oh crap, I have to pick up the phone and be a cold calling prospector and get rejected. So you and I are I'm the biggest fan of what you just said. I just don't believe that they realize, and that's why they don't do it. Now, for my model, so if I was a brand new agent, what we're talking about, 1000%, what you just said, truth. And I believe with where the market's going, there's going to be 2 types of agents that survive. There's going to be the agent you're talking about because they're going to be a hunter and they know what's up. And there's going to be my team, the mega teams. Those teams are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger because we have the budgets and we have the systems to just go crank it out. But that medium of the road agent that is just whatever, they're going to be gone. So gone. And so you and I are on the exact same page. I don't have one thing to say to you that's like in rebuttal other than I just don't think people realize what industry they're actually getting into and what it takes to be successful.
You nailed it. You so much so you gave me goosebumps. I mean, people think this business is so sexy and so easy and so lucrative. It is the hardest business I've ever been part of. The failure rate is unbelievable. And
it's 92%.
92%. I know
and
it.
The people that make it still don't make money.
That's right.
That's the thing about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother thing too. I really want to make an impact on like setting better expectations for people getting in the industry, upping the bar, and letting people know I don't care how you do it, you are getting into the direct sales business, period. End of story. If you don't like sales and that word makes you all weirded out, do not get into this industry. Like if you can't see yourself making phone calls, I don't care if it's internet leads or for sell by owners, do not get into real estate. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. So fun fact. So we do a lot of agent attraction because our team runs with agents, right? We do at least 40 to 50 recruiting appointments per month. And we've actually just upped it. So we're meeting with a ton of people. If they say, I'm getting in because I like houses, or I like architecture, or I like design, it's an immediate no. Yeah. Like we're like, you know what? That's fantastic. We're probably not the right fit for you, because they have no clue of what they're actually getting into. So
that's so true. Oh my gosh, I could talk to you for so long. So, and let me just give a little, I guess this is really good news with the numbers that I just outlined with like the average brand new realtor. Like I was just talking to a coaching client before this, and I'm just going to share her numbers on screen real quick. So in her tracker, I know I should be using Sisu. I will, I promise. But here's the number I really pay attention to when I'm coaching an agent is, let me blow my screen up, is their contacts to appointment set. This agent is at under 15 conversations to set one qualified listing appointment. She's a solo agent. She's making $50,000 a month. She made $50,000 already. And this is what somebody that can increase their skills can look forward to. And so you take the numbers I just outlined for her, every week, 100 conversations turns into 10 listing appointments. And so it's a very, very powerful thing. So anyway, I won't sell that, but I believe in it so much. I've seen the lives that get changed through that, you know?
Well, and I think you should sell it. I mean, here's the thing, you guys, like I said this like 5 times on this call, it is shifting. Like I'm not a doom and gloom. The one thing I dislike about real estate is that we're fear mongering. Like I actually am super excited about what's happening. Me too. And like, there's been so many people, even in my world, that have gotten in that I'm like, man, you better learn your skill set right now, or you're not going to survive this. And so I like to give the analogy, learn to swim when the waters are calm, instead of when you're freaking, the wind is blowing, you're getting pushed against the rocks. Like so right smart. Now, the water is calm. Like learn your skills, because I don't care how you do it, you're going to have to know it going in. The competition, there's going to be less opportunity. Like it's been so easy the last few years.
It has been. Yeah.
I mean, I'll pitch you all day long in terms of like, you guys, if you want this, like there's not a lack of how to do it.
That's
like,
right.
That's what I love about this industry. Like homes.
There's no secrets on what to do. Yeah.
You can be a sick. I have some girls on my team and some gentlemen making 50 grand a month too. And
I love it.
It's just some of those times it's like, there's not a lack of money out there. There's not a lack of sales. You just have to be willing to invest in yourself to make it happen. And everybody have a coach, and you're one of them. So
yeah, I love it. Thank you for that. And so, all right, let's talk about the last two. This next one is the hardest one for me. And I do it. Like I believe in content. I believe in social media, but the problem is, again, the perception new agents have. So lead pillar 3 is social media. And specifically what these agents think is, I'm going to spend all my time on Canva making pretty images, half naked in a bikini, and think I'm going to just smash it in real estate. And so this is the hardest one for me. Can you help me out here?
Drives me bananas. You guys. Yeah. Okay, here's the deal. Yes. Perception is reality. People spend so much dang time on social media that yes, you have a free TV commercial. So do I tell my agents to use it? Yes, use it.
Yeah.
Be strategic. Yeah. Like people want to see what you're out there in a story, like showing a house or like that you're helping somebody. But these Canva posts, the TikToks, like I can't tell you how many people, even in our ecosystem, they're actually produce that their perception is they're producers in our real estate space, and they don't sell anything.
That's right.
And it's because they're putting out these fancy videos. I'm like, I will tell you this. So I have to do it as well for my world, a little bit on content. The amount of time I've spent, I'm like, I could have gone and sold 2 houses.
Yeah.
Like, this is insane. And so I'm just going to challenge you guys, like, at the end of the day, your friends and family need to know you're in real estate. They need to see that you're getting success, but they don't like your Canva posts.
No.
They don't care about like, they don't care about that you sold another house. Like, the best advice I ever heard was, Jimmy Rex actually said this. He's like, you wouldn't go to a party and be like, hey man, I got this new listing at 1234 Main Street. It's XYZ.
That's
And
so true.
it's so true. So stop doing it to your people. Do you know
I
what
love
I mean?
it.
Like put out something they want to see. So I'm contradicting a little bit. Yes, you need to be on social. People need to know you're in real estate. There's a tactful way, but it is not going to solve your problems.
That's right.
Unless you're some like crazy influential and people are like, I have to work with them. That's very rare. So get on the phones.
Yeah. I mean, you and I are so philosophically aligned. It's incredible. I mean, it's so, motivating for me because it's so scary that the advice people are like, go build a brand. You and I both are saying, yes, that's important. Be on social, do that. Have it. It'll help you, but it's not going to be the reason you get business. It's not going to be the reason that you win or you don't win. And here's one little thing. You and I are running businesses. Tell me how you're tracking and you're measuring your brand. Oh, that's right. You can't. So go ahead. What were you going to say?
So I always say to my agents, because I've got a lot of 20 somethings that they're in this, like, I want to be on stage. I want to have a videographer. I want to do all this crap.
I want to be famous. Yeah.
And this is what I say to them. Do you want the fame or the fortune?
Amen.
Do you want the fame or the fortune? And they're like, well, I want the fortune. I'm like, well, the fortune is we get to work, because you going and having our videographer make this random video that gets 10 seconds of view is not going to get you, that took you a half a day to freaking make. Like, it's not going to happen. So that's what I lead with, is fame over fortune. I mean, do you want fame or fortune? I want the fortune. So like, I haven't done a great job on my brand. It's okay, but I'm making a lot of money. So
exactly. I always tell people, success is actually very unsexy. It's very boring. It's very mundane. It's very lonely. And all the stuff you see, all the sex appeal, that's just people trying to solve for their insecurities of not being successful. And you absolutely nailed it. Like, all the success and all the money lives in not being famous. I'm a huge Tupac fan, for those of you that are, and he talked about his song, he said, the fame, all I want is the fortune, and that's exactly what you said. And now you didn't know you were quoting Tupac every day with your team meetings.
There you go. Fame or fortune. What do you want?
And the last one is direct mail. All right. So I don't know if you guys do it, what your thoughts are on direct mail overall, but I'd love to hear kind of your approach.
Yes, so I do direct mail, but I actually only do it on my investment side of the business. So I'll target notice of defaults, likely to sell, absentee owners. So I don't do a direct mail of like a quote unquote farm. Again, running the team and stuff, it's not the best use of what I want to do, but I actually am very heavy on direct mail, but it is for my personal investment in wholesale. And I actually just dropped 7,000 mail pieces today. So I'm a fan, but I'm not a fan of the whole just listed, just sold postcard, whatever. That's to each their own. It's not my business model. So
and that to me, I see it similarly. It takes a lot of investment and a lot of burn rate that most agents don't have. Like, you have to send mail to get a return on it for a long, long time. So what I always coach an agent to, and I want your feedback here, is I love investing in direct mail in the database. In other words, farm the database. So your past clients, centers of influence, and your leads, those people, I love to invest with a direct mail piece to stay top of mind, because we know the open rates probably with direct mail against, a lot of arguments, is probably the highest thing ever. Like, it's higher than email. It's higher than anything else. So we know we can get a message in front of the people that we care about.
Yeah. If it's somebody we have a relationship with and it's in our database, 1000%, it's just an added touch, right?
Yep, exactly. Right.
They're getting hit so much with social and everything. And I'm a huge fan of that. I just don't love the whole farming idea.
Me neither. Yeah, we're on the same page. So listen, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much. I really respect all the work that you're doing. And I mean that. I think you're an absolute leader that we need in this industry to keep pushing us through, because yeah, things are going to change without a shadow of a doubt. So I guess before I let you go, if there are, and there are plenty of new agents that watch this channel,
Yeah.
if you started in a brand new market like you did, knowing what you know now, we picked you up, moved you out of Salt Lake City. We moved you to Detroit, Michigan, the armpit of the country where I live. Like, what would you do? Like, what would you do that other new agents can learn from?
So quite frankly, I would join a team. So if I went to Detroit today, I'd be hitting you up and saying, how can I be in business with you? No, this is like, I actually told my agents this the other day. I'm like, if I moved to California, even Spring Benson, who I am today, I would be going and joining in a team, because they have all the infrastructure ready to go, the lead gen, the systems, and at least even if it was for a year or two or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's me. Now, if you're like, nah, I'm going to go, whatever, I'd go find a coach and I'd start picking up the calls and getting the first sell by owners and investing in myself and knowing the market and getting some listings.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I agree 100%. I tell everybody 80% of agents should be on a team for at least their first 3 years.
Yep.
That's why I tell everybody, because it's what you need. You need the structure, the accountability, the systems, the tools, the leadership that you're not going to get out of brokerage. You're going to be by yourself. So anyway, thank you so much. This went longer than I thought, but it's a great conversation. I hope you guys get value from this. And if you guys have questions, you guys can put them in the comments, and then maybe Spring and I will kind of look at those over the next couple of days and respond the best that we can. So Spring, thank you so much. Where can people find you and connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram, or my website is springbee.com. So
I love it. Thank you so much. And best of luck to you for the rest of the year.
hey, thanks so much.